This is episode 63 of the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Welcome to the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Helping you keep your finger firmly pressed on the decking industry, the people in it, and the information you need to master the backyard. And now, host of the Ultimate Deck Podcast, Shane Chapman.
Happy Saturday, everybody. It's Saturday. This is so dumb, Wade. This is so stupid because
You're saying that it's Saturday? Nobody listens to this on Saturday.
True. I'm not going to get this posted tonight. Nobody's going to listen until Sunday. So it's not even, why even start the show like that?
Happy Super Bowl.
Right. So anyways, here we are 18 minutes into a podcast. The power goes out. We got to start over.
Rage.
Now I'm fired up.
Yeah,
Now I'm fired up.
So we had some solid energy going.
And it was
corrupt. It was like fun energy.
Not good to go.
And now what you have is you have rage energy.
Anger. Now I'm just mad.
I tell JJ that that's my I have two states. I have happy and then I have rage.
Static.
I don't have anywhere in between usually. It's not.
Yeah.
How are things? Meh.
It's a polarizing world. Anyways, the Happy Saturday thing, the reason I opened it like that is because it's a pet peeve of mine. And do you want to know why? I'll bet you haven't heard this before. But if you watch your Instagram stories, if you watch Instagram stories,
Yep.
people always start their Instagram story with happy whatever damn day it is. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm just here driving my car. You shouldn't be on your drive. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Friday.
So why does that bug you?
Because they're not holidays.
Oh.
It's just a day.
But that's okay.
It's
You can
just
still
Tuesday.
Can't you be happy on a Tuesday?
No, because you don't even, the point is you don't even have to say what day it is because the stories are only up there for one day.
24 hours.
So if you're watching it, it's that day.
You know that
If the story's old, it might be the next day.
what if it was like a good
You can
day?
do the math.
Rather than happy day. I don't hate it.
I hate it. I'm going to put a poll up and we're going to find out if I'm by myself.
I'm going to start.
I suspect I'm in the minority. I don't think anybody's
You will be in the
I don't think
minority.
anybody's that fired up about it. But I just story after story. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I'm here at Happy Tuesday.
You know what we should do? We should do this.
It's just Tuesday.
You put up a poll, find out where you're at, and then, well, I can't do this because I don't have near the following. I was like, and then I'm going to put something up and I'm going to be like, if you think this is funny, tag Shane in a Happy Tuesday comment or a Happy Wednesday, happy whatever day.
Just you
and
saying that right now.
And then just
is gonna
comment
result
and
in
be
this.
like, every time you do something, Happy Wednesday, tag Shane in that so that he knows
You know what's even
that you're
dumber?
allowed to be happy on Thursdays.
Even dumber about saying it today is that this, podcasts aren't Instagram stories. They don't last for 24 hours and disappear. They last forever.
Ever and
You can listen to
ever.
this on any day. So for you people, happy Monday, happy Tuesday, happy Wednesday.
And then just a quick shout out to Shane. Just on a happy Wednesday driving down the road. I think they should do it.
anyway, you know how I wanted to start this story?
You people out there do this.
Don't. That's a little bit controversial now, you people. You know how I wanted to open the story is I meant to record my kid saying my intro for me.
Your kid's a beauty.
We started this, or I don't know if that's the right words. We have this new intro now, and it's all professional,
It's
radio
amazing.
guy did it. It's
I love it.
It gets me fired up. So my kid hears this because I've played it on the Google Home, the podcast, because nothing I like more than listening to my own voice. So he hears it and he hears my name at the start and he's like, it comes on. It's like, and now your host, Shane Chapman. And he's like, and Shane Chapman. He's 3, he just turned 3, right? He gets so excited about it. He'll go around the house on day when I'm not even listening to it and intro me. He just thinks it's cool that his dad's on the radio or whatever.
Yeah, for me, I believe.
He won't know what a radio is growing up. Isn't that weird?
Oh.
I say,
Don't let me forget this, Ellen DeGeneres. So,
she is unforgettable.
yeah, so don't let me forget that. But, so this podcast, I've been on the last 3 in a row, which was not the norm.
You've had to be because we fired Justin.
We didn't fire him.
Right. He left. And so, and so I don't have the second man.
It was actually the opposite of fire. He left and then we were like,
don't leave.
We dropped our pants. We brought in pension and benefits and we brought all this stuff in to try and keep him. And he was like, yeah, cute.
He was really unhappy.
He
Apparently.
must have been so mad. So anyways, so he's gone. And so now it turned out I didn't know that I was doing split duty on the podcast until you're like, yeah, dude, it's Saturday.
I feel like
you gotta come down
you were
here. And
Probably, you were probably like
shit.
a 30%er because sometimes.
It was like
10
40.
Well, 10 or 15% I would do them by myself.
That's right. So 10%.
And then Justin, and then you and Justin split the other. Okay, so maybe about 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and Justin
I'm not
split
sick.
duty and the other
I'm
one.
not like super good at math, but I for sure wasn't doing.
Remember that girl at the airport that wasn't good at math? What was that story? Okay, let's tell this story. We're in the air. Where were we going to? We were going to Louisville. Tech Expo. We're in the Toronto airport, I think it was.
Weren't we on our way home? We were on our way back from there because if we were on our way down, we would have told everybody the story. Oh, maybe we did joke about math on the podcast.
I think we may have.
Sure,
Yeah, we may have brought this up before. So we were sitting at the bar, the three of us, because at that time Justin still liked us.
Yep.
And so it was us sitting there, and then this girl, and she was like if she would have come up and been like, guess where I live, I'd have been like, Vegas. Turns out she lived in Vegas.
Yeah.
She was Canadian though, because she found out we were from Canada.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm from Canada.
And she heard our voice.
Yeah, maybe.
That was it.
And so anyway, she was like what you would think
She was bad at math.
a girl who lived in Vegas but wasn't from Vegas looks like.
Yeah.
Goes down there and pays for what she looks like. She looked like that. So anyways, I don't remember how the conversation went, but
You don't think everything that you saw was natural? You don't think it was natural?
no, I don't think I saw anything natural from her. Maybe the cotton in her sweater. That was about it. But anyway, she was doing the math and she was talking. We introduced ourselves and she's like, "Oh, I'm so bad with names," and she remembered 2 out of 3 of our names. Is that right? She remembered 2 out of 3. She forgot Justin's.
She remember.
She's like Wade and Jordan and Shane or something. And we're like, oh, so close. You're like 66%. She's like, well, I don't know. I think I'm more like 75. And we're like, awkward silence. And so we just let it go. We let it slide. We didn't bust her. I was like, no, she's not good at math. Shocker. Then afterwards, we're like, I'm not sure what's dumber. That she doesn't know that 2 out of 3 is 66.666%, or if she counted herself in the naming challenge.
And then she was right.
like, and gave herself credit for knowing her own name.
Yeah.
Which
and then she nailed it.
To be fair, that might have been a bit of a stretch for her to know her own name. It might not have been real either.
My argument to that is that
Mindy.
she didn't include
Mindy.
herself. She's just shitty at math.
Oh man.
Okay,
I wish I knew.
Why did I name drop Ellen? I ended up.
Ellen DeGeneres you brought up.
Yeah, but why? What were we talking about?
Because I said that my kid's going to grow up not knowing what the radio is.
Oh, snap. So good. So the other night I fell asleep on the couch at, I want to say like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. I had a nap. I slept for an hour and then I woke up and it was just like, and that ruins me. If I have a nap, then I'm stuck awake till 2 or 3 or something. And I can't bounce back. So I got stuck watching Ellen DeGeneres clips on Facebook. She did this. So you know this hashtag OK Boomer? Have you heard of this?
No,
thing?
I don't.
So there's this hashtag that millennials are putting out. It's like, oh, OK Boomer. And so they make fun of the boomer generation, baby boomers that can't do things. So Ellen has taken it upon herself to make fun of millennials. And so she brought this girl from the crowd. She was like, anybody in there is whatever, a millennial. Yeah, I am. Good. You come here. Brings her down onto stage. She had to do 3 tasks. She had an old boombox and she had to dial it into 98.3 FM.
Here we go.
Then she had a typewriter and she had to type, I like big butts and I cannot lie on the typewriter.
That was so good.
Yeah, it was like a piece of paper beside a typewriter. So you had to load the paper, type that onto it. Yeah, exactly. Slide it over. And then the third one, she gave them a camera and they had to load film onto the camera and take a picture of themselves.
And do a selfie with an old camera.
Old camera. And so this girl, she never dialed it in to 98.3. It didn't happen. She couldn't turn it on. It took her 2 minutes to turn it on.
That's funny.
So then, so she didn't do that. When she went to type, I like big butts, she ran the paper through the printer, through the typewriter twice, and then finally got it to stick, and then actually typed it across the page and didn't get all the words on there. And Ellen was like, close enough. We're like,
didn't know how to advance the paper to the next
16 minutes into this thing. I didn't think this was going to take that long. She grabs the film for the camera and unspooled a third of the film.
Yeah.
And everybody in the crowd was like, anyways, and then the girl knew that she'd made a mistake, was like, oh my God, I made a mistake. What did I do?
Puts it back. Like, you can't put it back.
You can't put it back. It's rude. Anyway, so your kid's not going to know what a radio is, and Ellen is like killing it right now.
So I just thought about this morning. Actually, I think it was last night, but I was still up and my wife wasn't. So I brought it up with her this morning. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but David Letterman and Jay Leno is they're the nighttime talk show guys that we grew up with.
Yes.
Right? That was the guys.
Yep.
And when we were younger, people older than us were like, Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was the man.
Good.
And I never ever saw him like when he was on air. You saw replays or whatever.
I saw the replays,
later.
yep.
But it was never like when you were 8 years old and watching The Late Show, Johnny Carson was long gone. I thought
he was
this.
still alive.
Well, he was alive, but he wasn't doing the show anymore.
He's long gone now.
Yeah. But now, kids growing up now, David Letterman and Jay Leno are Johnny Carson to them. They don't know who those guys are.
They don't know the top 10.
They're growing up with Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, which is, they're great, right?
Fallon's
but
a beauty.
it made me feel really old when all of a sudden it was like, David Letterman and Jay Leno are a thing of the past and have been for a while.
Yep.
That's how old I am.
Yep.
And I missed it for a moment. I was like, like Jay Leno was dumb, but he was funny. But he was funny,
He had an
right?
awful chin.
Well, he's famous for his chin and his laugh, his little whatever. They were good though, right? They were like the polar opposites of each other. David Letterman,
I feel like those
were a
are
good
two
duo.
guys that are like, they're like Ford and Chevy, right?
yeah,
You only liked one.
100%.
And
They were polarizing.
I liked Letterman. I didn't
I
watch.
liked both.
I didn't.
But yeah, I like both. But it made me sad that they're people don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Letterman has a shot because he's got his he has like a show on Netflix. Letterman, I can't remember what it's called, Sitting Down with David Letterman or something.
Do you think he ran out of money?
And he interviews people. I don't know. Unlikely, but he did that gig for like 40 years. But anyway, so that was my moment of sadness.
Yeah.
Super Bowl tomorrow.
Snap.
Topical things. Decking gets boring sometimes, so we just talk about things that are going on in the world.
Okay.
It's not true. Decking's always exciting. But Super Bowl tomorrow.
I think Steelers are going to win.
I think they should, because that would make today's episode very topical.
They also, have they won?
What do you think the odds
have
are
they
of
also
the Steelers winning
won?
tomorrow?
I wouldn't.
You should
I
put some
wouldn't
money
put
down
any
on
money on
the
it.
Steelers
But
tomorrow.
I'm a Steelers fan. So here it is. Here's how you can tell what sports team I'm going to cheer for. Want to know? The very first game I go to live, that's who I cheer for. And so
Okay.
I went to my very first NHL game I went to was in the early 80s, and I went to Edmonton. And so I cheer for the Oilers. And so a bit of a disadvantage for the rest of the world, but it was like Gretzky and Messier and Curry.
Yeah, it was kind of a good time to be an Oilers fan.
Great time to show up. First time you're going to go to an NHL game, you walk into a dynasty.
Yeah.
Do you want to cheer for these guys? Yeah.
7-1 in the first period. I think it seems like a good side to be on.
6 of them were Gretzky's goals.
Yeah.
These are my guys.
And he has 4 assists somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
He assisted himself on 3 goals.
He passed it over to Curry and then back to himself and then scored. So we gave him the assist and the goal. So Oilers is my team. Football, the Steelers.
Okay.
My brother-in-law lived in Pittsburgh. The very first NFL game I went to was in Pittsburgh. It was Ben Roethlisberger's first game back after his suspension.
Okay.
For
Talking to the girl at the airport.
allegedly whatever was it he did. We probably shouldn't joke about that, but it was a suspension. And so he came back. They played the Browns at 1:00 in the afternoon.
Holy smokes. Good thing you picked the home game. The home game was on the right side for you there.
Unbelievable.
That could have been
They
really bad
played
for
at
you.
1:00 in the afternoon. We went downtown Pittsburgh at like 10 a.m. and I was smashed by noon.
That's not the Wade I know.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so much fun. Bought a jersey, blah, blah, blah. Did all this stuff. So cheer for the Steelers. The Steelers won that game 7-3.
Oh, yeah.
There was a touchdown.
Your first Oilers game had a bigger score than that. For sure, it had a bigger
There
score
was
than
a
that.
touchdown and a field goal.
Welcome to the
and
NFL.
it was like, holy smoke. I was dead sober when I walked out of there. It was like, this is boring.
As a CFL
balls.
fan, you're like, this is the exact reason you Americans don't like soccer, because it scores like this, but yet this is your thing. Is that what I'm
It
hearing?
was so bad.
So I wish that I had the same way of picking teams, but that would mean that my forever
And then the Blue
soccer
Jays.
team would be my 4-year-old's Timbit soccer team.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I've not been to a soccer game yet.
I haven't been to a soccer game, but I don't cheer for anybody in soccer.
Right. Not yet.
I want to go to Mexico City to watch a soccer game.
Let's do it. Jack Expo, Mexico City.
How many people are in Mexico City? Million?
Like 20 million.
20 million.
It's the biggest city in the continent.
Yep, done. That's where I want to go watch a soccer game.
Yeah, it's a big town.
Or Arsenal.
Whatever.
Either. Yep.
Anyway,
Okay, so Steelers are my team. What we do know about Super Bowl is that somebody wearing a red jersey will win tomorrow.
Most assuredly.
Mahone?
Okay.
Quarterback for
Mahone?
KC? Mahone. That guy is dynamite. I think KC wins.
Speaking of mispronouncing words, like that just happened right there.
Mahone.
Did you know?
That was a name.
Whatever.
Johnny Home.
In Canada, we say Mahon. The reason this popped in my head is
KC
because
wins.
somebody called this out a while back on a podcast because we said asphalt,
Oh.
and the American way of saying that word is asphalt.
Ass? Like as in two S's?
They have a point. There's only one H, and it's not after the S. Well, it is after the S, but there's something else there too. So
Asphalt.
we say Canadians say asphalt, and
yeah.
Americans say asphalt.
Boy, that guy, he might win me on that one.
It's
I might
pretty-
actually
it's
change that.
Tough to argue that one, but
It is, yeah.
anyways, I forgot that was one. I
Asphalt.
did know that. I've been called that like, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. That's come up before, but somebody on that one was like, love the podcast. You guys are great. So funny to
You
hear
sound
you
like
say
a big
asphalt
dummy.
instead of asphalt. And
Yeah.
like, well, that's one that we forgot about. We talk about our words all the time, and that's not one of them. Anyway, the reason the Super Bowl popped into my head, well, because it's a Super Bowl. Like, it didn't have to pop into my head. It's the freaking biggest sports entertainment event of the year. So it was already there. I didn't require any prodding.
Does anybody know about the Grey Cup?
Yeah. That's, well, we're a ways away from that. But speaking of Grey Cup, that's in Regina this year. That's in our hometown. We got to be there.
Remember how when we started this, we were like, goddamn, we're 18 minutes in, we lost the power, and it was like, we're not going to be able to redo this energy. I feel like
Today's
we both
topic
have
is
the
about
energy
steel
today.
framing.
Steel
But
framing.
anyway, before we get there, commercials are a big part of the
Just 6 more
Super
minutes and
Bowl
we'll
experience.
get to this.
The Super Bowl experience is half commercials, right? A lot of people turn in for halftime, the entertainment, which is who? It is
Who cares? They're always awful.
Jennifer Lopez and Shakira.
It's always disappointing. I have not heard of a halftime show in the last like 10 years that people were like, maybe inside of 10 years, but it was like, that's not good. The last time the halftime show was good, there was like a wardrobe malfunction, a boob showed up. That was the last one that was good.
The Grey Cup halftime show was good last year. Keith Urban, he rocked it.
No, but it's like,
You're talking the Super Bowl. I know.
just saying there's like lots of hype around it.
I know, but that's because people have bullshit expectations.
yeah.
You bring in the biggest superstars in the world,
Sure.
and people just complain no matter what. It's the same with the Grey Cup. People complained last year. Keith Urban shows up, kills it, and half the people complain because he's not Canadian. This is a Canadian game. This should be a Canadian act.
Shut your mouth.
Listen,
Bring
the
the
game
biggest-
is 90% of the time it is a Canadian act.
Yep.
There's only so many of them.
And they're not that good. That's why they're like,
And 50% of the players in the field are American anyway.
yeah. Just bring the biggest talent you
Who
can get.
cares?
Yeah.
And like
Deal.
the last time the Grey Cup was in Regina, the TV is focusing on the fact that Tom Hanks is in the stands watching the game.
Yeah, because they played against Hamilton.
Listen, we like it when Americans come to our shit.
Yep.
So stop complaining.
Yep.
Anyway,
Isn't Keith Urban Australian though?
he is Australian.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that he was American, but
He's
like
not.
he does. My point was they don't need to be American. Or Canadian. This happened when the Black Eyed Peas came up here too. People
Yeah.
lost their minds, but they did sound like crap. But people lost their minds because they
Fergie
weren't.
was stoned.
There's not. They should be a Canadian act. And it's like yes, the Canadians have played the act. The year before it was Shania Twain.
She was pretty good.
She came
was
in on
so
dog
cold,
sleds,
though, man.
on dog sleds,
It
and had
was
skidoos doing flips in the air. It was the most Canadian thing you've ever seen in your life. Anyway,
No beavers though.
no beavers. Tomorrow, the Super Bowl, and a big thing at Super Bowl is the commercials and the halftime. And I have read that one of the commercials tomorrow is going to be from GM announcing that the Hummer is back.
This is like
Like the big Hummer, the Humvee,
H1,
the
army style,
the military vehicle gone, like not military.
way of the
safe,
dinosaur because they
road legal
burned too
version of
many.
it. Yeah. So the Hummer's been gone for a while. I don't know when they discontinued it, 2005 or
But
something.
then they made a like, let's be honest, they made a piss poor attempt at reinventing that thing, right? So they brought H2 and H3. And
well, because everybody complained because it was a big gas guzzling, huge monstrosity of an unnecessary vehicle on the road.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, fine, we'll make them more consumer friendly versions and made smaller ones.
This thing's like, this is way better. It gets like 14 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? And everybody was like, well, it's twice as good as the one I had before.
Yeah.
So, and then they made that truck thing, and that was the undoing of the H3 was like some version of the Avalanche where you could haul like a box of groceries in the box of the truck.
They tried to turn the Hummer into a soccer
Piece
mom
of
van.
shit. Yeah. Anyways, no good.
Anyway, so it was never a big seller. It was always a polarizing vehicle, but it was a status symbol. That's for damn sure. And it was a huge brand. The Hummer brand itself was like in car culture was like that's a big brand that they created there.
There isn't a single person that doesn't know what that is.
Still. Even those millennials that can't turn on the radio have probably heard of a Hummer before.
Correct.
So they're bringing it back.
Not that type of.
Which is incredible.
Yep.
But they're bringing it back as a 100% electric vehicle with a gigantic battery.
This is amazing. This
I just
is
think
like
this is so
marketing genius
from
right?
GM. That's like my blood. Like I like marketing things, and this is genius to me. If you're going to bring out an electric vehicle, because there's talks that Ford has bought into Rivian, and they're gonna build a Ford truck on the Rivian platform and everything else.
Yeah, but they're gonna bring it back as an F-150.
It's gonna look like an F-150, and it's gonna whatever.
No
it's
deal.
Like,
not interested.
nobody wants to spend the money and satisfy their ego of saying like, oh, I'm a good person because I'm driving an electric vehicle, and then not have a vehicle that looks like an electric vehicle.
Tesla's truck.
You don't want to quietly drive and like,
Elon Musk is not an idiot. You want to
stand out.
You have the Cybertruck, which we're going to own.
Yeah.
That Cybertruck, like that thing rolls down the street and from 4 blocks away, that
if you have an option to buy a Tesla and you can get the same guts, let's say it's the Tesla drivetrain, battery, everything underneath it, but instead Chevy licenses it and puts Chevy Cobalt skin over top of
Chevy Impala.
And it doesn't say a word about it being an EV, but it's $10,000 cheaper. You're still buying the Tesla.
I know.
Because you want people to know you're driving the Tesla.
I would drive that. I would pay the $10,000 more.
Everybody would.
To drive the Tesla.
Everybody would. Nobody wants to secretly drive an electric vehicle. So anyway, so you want a vehicle that stands out. So GM's got the option of just putting out a GMC Sierra or a Chevy Silverado that's an electric drivetrain to it. But why would you do that?
Why would you?
Instead, they're like, somebody in Tesla needs to have a raise. Is like, somebody in GM is like, you know what we should do? Ted, you know what really get the guys going? You know what's really going to grab some headlines? We should bring back the biggest gas guzzling vehicle in the world, flip this thing on its head, pull that brand into the 21st century, and go all electric with it with a gigantic battery. I think it's genius. It's so good.
The CEO was sitting in his chair and he was like, sweet, we got another pitch from the guys in marketing. And the marketing guys are like, hear me out
on this one though.
Please don't cut me off because I'm going to build some steam on this. But
it's just the biggest 180 on that brand. And I think it's just genius. It's been gone long enough that nobody's still mad that it existed at one point.
Even the people that are mad, the people will have to
acknowledge this now, right? You're like, that thing was bad for the environment. It's like, yeah, well, we buried it for a few years. Now we're going to bring it back 100% electric.
There you go.
What do you got to say now?
Now what? Oh, well, I'm going to say I'm ordered one.
All good now. But the Cybertruck is for sure polarizing. The design is at best interesting, but some people are like, it's cool. It's such a departure from everything you're used to. The Hummer, however, isn't necessarily a departure from what you're used to.
There is not a single person on the earth, not even Elon, that thinks the Cybertruck looks good. The thing is designed like that to catch eyes. It's not designed because it's like, well, that's pretty.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. The girl that is from Toronto that works in Vegas, she was pretty. People noticed her. Debatable. She had some great features. The Cybertruck is not pretty and it has no good features. It is awful looking. But for $150 US deposit, you could put yourself on the list and get one of those.
It's
and
like
you
a pet,
should
though.
get one.
It's like dogs. Sometimes they're just so ugly that they're cute.
Oh, that's French bulldogs. What's your ugly one?
You know?
Chihuahuas.
My dog?
No, not your dog. I've seen your dog. No,
Tarps off, boys. Tarps
Yeah,
off.
we're going to fight. No, I just mean like, what's your...
But like pugs or whatever, right?
Oh,
They have a
yeah,
smashing
pugs are
face.
ugly.
It's like, you know what? Feature by feature, you are an ugly ass dog, but altogether you're so ugly, you're cute. That's a Cybertruck. It's like this. It's so weird and ugly that it's kind of cool.
Yep. But driving down the street with your branding on it, NFDI,
Yeah.
NFDI, get rid of your Ford.
Right?
Turn that thing in, get yourself a new $90,000 Cybertruck, and you'll catch way more eyes than your F550 jacked up spinners, spikes on the
100%.
side. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's going to be good. So I think the Hummer, like,
Okay.
I'm excited. I want to watch Super Bowl tomorrow so I can see the Hummer commercial.
You're watching it for one commercial.
Debatable. We might not even get the commercials in Canada, but I'm going to make a good attempt
But
at
at
watching
least
that
Monday, we'll YouTube on Monday.
25 minutes. You know what the Hummer is made out of?
Dinosaur bones.
This might not even be true. Is it steel? I don't know if it's steel. It's some sort of like, they've invented some sort of like steel alloy, aluminum, something or other. But today's episode, if you're just tuning in,
I think at the
good
start
for
of
you.
this,
You dodged a whole bunch of crap at the start.
at the start of this podcast, you should skip to 26 minutes.
Yeah, we might have to,
to
put
get content.
chapters in there. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so
we
let's. There's just lots to talk about in the world today, so we had to touch on it.
Busy.
The topic for today, as far as Dex is related, is why you might want to consider steel framing over wood framing. And it's become a little bit more topical again because there's a few entrants into the market now that are going to hopefully gain some traction and create this market a little bit.
You know what? I think it's an amazing idea. And we saw this 3 years ago. Like, it's been around forever, right? Like, not forever, but quite some time. Trex has done their elevations framing for a while.
Yeah.
And when it sort of reinvigorated us was we were down at Deck Expo 3 years ago, and Fortress came out with some decking, like deck framing. And it was like Fortress framing, and it was great. It was like, well, this system looks like it's easier to put together, and it's like black, and they just like, it looked nicer than the elevation stuff.
Yep.
I don't know that it goes together nicer. We haven't worked with any of them, but I think you and I both know that this will become more commonplace. Like, this will start to be more common than it is right now.
So the features and benefits of it have always made sense. Were you not? I thought you were done there.
I'm done. Yeah, I know. I was going to be
I
like,
thought you were done, and then you made a hand gesture that implied you were just getting to something else.
Before the power went out, you actually talked about some streaming gaming stuff that I was like,
that's right.
I totally
we
didn't
left that
know
out.
about that. But that's like, because I don't play video games, so I
Right.
didn't understand that. But anyways,
So we've talked about like, well, steel framing hasn't really caught on yet, and
because it's
Yeah.
ahead of its time.
kind of right. And so that was a conversation where it went with gaming. It was like everybody's praising Xbox xCloud right now with the streaming gaming. That's like they've finally done it. It's like this is what streaming gaming, live streaming gaming should have been. Not on your Xbox, on your phone, anywhere. It's like out of the cloud. It's Netflix for gaming.
Yep.
And finally, people are praising Xbox for us and be like, "This is how it's supposed to be." But this was Xbox. They weren't the first one to take a run at this. There was like Google Stadia launched last year, and Google, with all their money, couldn't make a go of it. It's like struggling and it's not doing well. But before that, even there was another company like 8 years ago that launched this, and they have come and gone. They're like they're gone. They're bankrupt. They're done. The infrastructure was not ready for it. They couldn't break into the market at the height of probably what was the Xbox 360 and PS3, like pretty aggressive markets to try to tap into. But
tons of video game, but the internet wasn't there, right? And it was like,
right.
So to your point, we were talking about steel framing, and it was like steel framing has launched a few years ago, but it hasn't caught on. And maybe it's not that the steel framing is the issue. It's that the market's not ready.
It's just not ready. It just takes a while. Because Trex Elevations, to be honest, I didn't do the research to see when that launched. I don't know, but it's been around for a while. But not everybody's doing it. But there's a few guys out there that only do it now. And it's pretty rare to run somebody that has done a Trex Elevations deck and then said, I didn't really like it and went back.
No, everybody loves
Most
it.
people, they've either done it and been like, it's great. I can't sell it to everybody, but I certainly would like to do another one.
Yep.
Or they did it a couple times and then they said, oh no, that's over. we're not doing wood anymore.
Yeah.
We build high-end decks, and therefore they're only getting elevations. That's part of the bid.
And so like, it's an amazing concept, and it's an amazing product, right? Like just steel framing, just generally, or aluminum framing, or however you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
There's only been 2 hangups really, and it's been price and install.
Availability. I was going to say availability.
Maybe availability too. It's been like, thankfully, like Trex being the big brand in the industry was kind of the first ones to jump on this in a kind of mass marketed way.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, if they can't make it, go into 90% of decks, nobody could have. So that shows you how much of a challenge it is to get the steel framing into market and beat wood out.
Correct.
Because Trex hasn't been able to do it in a significant way in years and years and years. But the biggest hangups were, well, it costs quite a bit more than wood. Like Trex Elevations used to be about 4 times the price of pressure treated wood. And I think in Canada, probably more, because usually pressure treated lumber in the States is a little bit more money. So let's call it 4 to 6 times more than treated framing. So it's a big jump in cost is the primary pushback from the end user's perspective, from the homeowner.
Yeah.
But the second pushback is you have thousands and thousands and thousands of carpenters installing decks.
Oh yeah.
Not metal fabricators.
That's right.
Not
yeah.
dudes that work with steel all the time. Their tools and their trailers are set up to work with wood, not steel.
And so it's expensive for them to change.
Yeah, you need all sorts of new tools. It slows you down because it's going to take you a lot longer to get up to speed with that when you've been building decks out of wood for 20 years.
I know that our podcast doesn't have the most extensive reach, but it was like, there's some vendors that listen to this and there's some contractors that listen to this. And it's like, so if you're a vendor listening to this one, it's like, consider the contractor in putting this thing together. How are you going to sell steel framing?
Yeah.
So when we were at WRLA, we talked to a steel framing supplier, and he said, this was his thing. He was like, you know what? Host an event, bring me 10 contractors, and I will purchase the saw for the contractor that sells the first deck. Because I understand that he's not set up for this. I understand that his trailer doesn't have the tools for this, but there's value in it. And I want him or her to start selling our product because I believe in it. And so I'll invest $600 into his company to do that. And I think that's a great, because you are asking these people to do something that they're not normally doing, and nobody likes change.
Yeah, there's for sure a pushback when there's a big change like that. Yep.
You just have to new saw, new drills, new drill bits,
Yeah, the big one is the saw, right? Your drills are still, like, a lot of stuff still goes together with self-tapping screws and hex head screws and everything. You probably, you'll use your existing drills, but
instead of a Robertson, now you're using all hex heads.
Sure.
Right? And so now you get a socket
The big investment is being able to cut the steel.
Yeah. Tin snips, miter saw.
With something, right? And so it's going to require, at minimum, some different types of blades to invest in, but probably you should get yourself into an actual metal chop saw to cut some of the stuff. But regardless, so there it is. It's it's money and the fact that it's going to change and slow people down. They're not familiar with it. And those are 2 pretty good reasons to shy away from it. Yeah. But why this has become a little bit more topical this year maybe is that now not just Trex Elevations. Trex Elevations was really the only big brand in the market. There's, of course, steel framing companies that make steel studs and everything else that could make you some steel framing.
Yeah,
anybody can do that.
It was, so basically even steel stud wall stuff could be used for decking.
But now we've got a second company that's entering the market, Fortress, with their Evolutions. I'm sure the name is not accidental. They're probably
they've evolved.
It's probably a run at Trex to be this is the evolved steel framing. And so they've tried to tackle some of those install things by making just the install maybe just go a little bit smoother, a little bit easier, a little bit more straightforward, possibly. And apparently bringing the cost down. So now they're saying 2.5 times wood. So now that gap's closing enough that it's the wood is already only a small fraction. The framing is already a small fraction of a composite deck.
Yep.
So on a $10,000 project, your framing is probably only $1,000, $1,500.
Sure,
right?
Maybe more. 2. I would have said 2.
Maybe a little bit more, but it depends what you're putting on it. But if you're putting in a high-end composite or PVC decking and aluminum railing, something like that, the framing is probably no more than 20% of the cost of the job.
Correct.
So you're only doubling that because the rest of the stuff still stays the same.
Yeah. So now your deck from 10,000 goes to 12,000.
Yeah. Something like that, right?
Right?
10, 12, not so big of a jump. And the more you go up, the more like
The less awful
easier
it is.
that is to eat.
Yep.
But before, when it went from 10 to 14 or 15,000, that's a
That's
bit
big.
bigger of a jump.
Right? Because now you could have done glass rail and lights.
Yeah.
Right?
And to your point before, the availability of it is going to get a little bit better now because Fortress is getting their stuff into distribution. It's going to be a little bit more readily available. So now you're going to have your Trex option, which is a good like the elevation
It's
steel
a great
frame.
option. Trex is a great option.
You've got a Fortress option on it starting to get out there. I'm sure these aren't going to be the last two. Although Birdie told us.
There's a company in, I believe they're from Ontario. They're called DexSpan.
Yeah, DexSpan does aluminum. So there's some aluminum systems out there as well.
And they have like a channel on top. They have their own fastener, right? So
yeah.
DexSpan has a great product, way lighter. It's aluminum.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like paint it or, so with Fortress and Trex, you have that steel framing.
It's supposed to paint your cut ends because it can rust.
With steel, right? So the things you have to do to steel to stop it from rusting or corroding or
oxidizing or whatever term you want to use. Yep.
Yeah. DexSpan has addressed that. And steel is heavier than aluminum. So,
but steel is cheaper than aluminum. And so DexSpan, I don't know what the DexSpan thing is, but they're probably still the 4 to 6 to 8 times more than wood. I don't know.
Sure.
But they'll be more than the steel stuff.
They'll be more
undoubtedly, right?
Absolutely.
And they're not as big of a brand, probably don't have as good a distribution, but a great option though.
They also don't have probably the marketing dollars. Like if you think about Trex and Fortress versus DexSpan.
Yeah.
Good luck, man.
Yeah. Trex is in a league of its own. And then there's Fortress and then there's DexSpan. But anyway, point is, it's going to become more commonplace to run into this stuff, to run into the steel frame options.
And you're falling apart, hey?
I am.
Or what?
Yeah. So you might have to pay a little bit more mind to it. This is a way that contractors can set themselves apart by offering this steel framing, because there's a lot of benefits to doing so. So we talked about the drawbacks. It's like, well, you might have to, your first couple decks might go slower because you have to learn a new system.
Not they might. They absolutely
will go slower. Right? You will need some new tools. Yep. And the cost is a little bit more. So there's some drawbacks. However, there's a lot of reasons to go ahead and do this. And probably the first, well, I would say top two, but we'll start with one. All of these boards that we're putting on nowadays, these PVCs and composites and whatever else, have these 25, 30, 40, 50-year warranties on them, lifetime structural warranties. They're going to last forever. And we're putting it on top of lumber that's lifespan is only going down every year. Like you don't get 30 years out of a wood frame deck anymore.
What are you, 17?
Yeah.
20?
If you're lucky.
20 years? If you treat it just perfect.
There's guys out there saying they're replacing 7-year-old decks because it's just like they're in a wet climate.
I guess it depends where you are in the climate, right?
100%.
So if you're in Seattle versus Saskatchewan.
Yeah, we're dry as can be here, right? Yeah. They've got 250 rain days a year and we got 2.5. Yeah. Like 15 maybe, right?
Yeah, 20.
So we don't see the rot issues as much as other wetter markets would.
Yep.
But regardless, there's other benefits to this stuff too, though. And one of the most notable being, if there's a bad, like composite decking and PVC decking, aside from the couple things that people note, like, oh, it's hot, it gets hot. Yes, it gets hot. Yeah, it's pricey. Yes, it's a little bit pricey. But the third pushback people give is like, oh, I've seen decks that are wavy. It's all wavy. My buddy put in a composite deck 3 years ago. His deck's all wavy. That's like, well, yeah, because it's just doing what the framing's doing. It's just following the frame. It's attached to the wood beneath it.
Yep.
The wood shows up. It's got 60% moisture content to it. It dries out. It all ends up a different thickness.
60 is a little high, but sure.
Whatever. Some of it comes out soaking wet.
Yeah. But it's like, and so it's not true. It's cut when they even when they run it through the saw, it doesn't run through true. We've had 2x10s show up here that are anywhere from 9 1/8 to 9 1/2. They're supposed to be 9 1/4. So imagine if your deck was 9 1/8, then 9 1/2, then 9 1/4, then 9 1/2 again, and then 9 3/16. Like your board doesn't have a
You're up against
freaking chance.
And so a lot of guys stack their lumber or they plane it down. They do their best to, at the time of install, get that thing flat
Good
as can be.
So now you have a board, you've lined it up, And then it dries out at a different rate.
And so they harvest these trees, and a lot of them are the same age, but some will undoubtedly be, this one's a little bit older, this one's a little bit more dense. So they throw it in the vat of chemical that it's soaked there for however long that it's soaked. But this board takes up more moisture, and this one takes up less moisture. And so then they swell and they do their own thing a little bit. And then maybe you get a deck that comes from 2 different lifts. And so maybe it's not even the same batch that came. So for different reasons, they may dry differently, and that causes the waving.
Yep.
A lot of the times, right? Yep. It's not so much the board sagging, it's just they start waving. Steel is consistent.
Totally true. Every time.
If it's 5.5, it's 5.5.
Every time. Because it runs through an extruder. It has no moisture content. It can't change. It's a fixed element. Right? And so the idea of changing lumber or the wood itself actually changing versus what the steel framing is, the steel can't change. So now you're going to save some time. You don't have to crown your lumber ever. You don't have to stack your lumber. You just when it shows up, you just pull it off the truck and put it on. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And so probably when you start to think about jobs that are 400, 600 square feet, you're into that stacking lumber, organizing your joists and stuff. You're into that for what, 2 hours?
It takes a lot of time.
Right? By the time you actually haul your lumber to the dunnage, line it up, lay it out, move, you're an hour. So there's an hour saved. Now you can not that you should charge less for installing steel framing, but that's a direct offset to the cost of it takes me longer to set a tech screw.
Well, you just may not have to charge it much more.
You don't have to charge more because you're saving it in different spots, right? So
that said, it's a premium upgrade. And so therefore, if you can charge a premium labor to install it, that's fine too. Not to tell people what they should charge, but
charge whatever you want to charge.
People are paying for a premium product. So anyway, but the reason we brought that up in the first place was the lifespan of lumber doesn't match the lifespan of the stuff you're putting on top. This stuff does. Steel will. Because they give it a 25-year warranty. In both Trex Elevations and Fortress Evolution's case, they both provide a 25-year warranty in the framing as well. You don't get that on wood.
Correct.
So when you buy
they actually don't give you any warranty on wood.
Right.
Zero.
So when you buy a Trex, a Trex Enhanced Naturals board or whatever, you get that 25-year warranty on there, but your framing only lasts 14 years. Well, what good's the warranty then?
None.
But with this, you get the 25-year warranty on the framing as well. And then in Trex's case, anyway, not with everybody's, but in Trex's case, if you use their decking with their framing, you get additional labor warranty on top of that as well.
Correct.
So we
talked about that in our warranty podcast we did, right?
So there's for sure warranty reasons, like longevity and warranty reasons to do steel over wood, undoubtedly.
Yep.
Because we say that every day. That's how we sell G-tape a lot. It's listen, the wood underneath, it may only last 10 or 12 years. Sorry, but you liked this board over the other board because it had a 40-year warranty versus a 25-year warranty, but it doesn't matter because you have wood. So you should probably tape it or do something to protect the framing underneath, or else that warranty doesn't matter.
Correct.
So by going to steel, you're going to make sure that the frame lasts as long as the board, which is good.
And there's so there's so many schools of thought of this, right? Where people are I actually want my deck. There are some contractors out there that say, I want my deck to rot so that I can replace it. We've talked to those people. They're no, it should last 10 years and then it should rot. And then job security says I have a new deck to build in 10 years from now. And then we have other contractors that are my goal is to build one deck for that person that could last their lifetime. But if they move houses, I'll build the next one and I'll build the next one and I'll build their neighbors and blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah. So I'm definitely not of the
let it rot in 10.
Not that guy.
I'm not that guy either. Do what's good
for the customer, right? And that'll pay itself off.
Plan
something to fail. Yeah. Something to fail. Another great point for steel over lumber is the fact that it's fire. It's non-combustible.
Oh yeah. So, right. And so that's a thing.
Residential and commercial, this is a big thing.
Mostly commercial.
Yeah. But if you need a fire rated application, well, steel's going to give that to you, and obviously the wood is not. So that's a pretty
can't.
Even
if you treat it right, it still can't.
Yeah.
So it's fire rated.
Fire rated. That's a big plus.
That's a huge commercial aspect. So it's like, if you're trying to learn how to sell steel framing, hit up some architects, hit up some engineers, right?
Because those guys are doing
commercial
I've seen
buildings.
jobs where guys have used wood and they've had to coat the lumber in some sort of fire rated protectant, like sealant to coat it. Like, how much did that end up costing? You should have just did steel.
Absolutely.
Right? To coat it and the labor that goes into that, like, that seems silly.
Yeah.
Another fallback of wood is the fact that it is termite rot prone. You may have bugs or insects that get into it, or it may just rot away from, or beavers.
To me, that was a super obvious thing that a beaver was going to eat your deck.
You know what though? We are Canadian though. So probably like if you're from Delaware or why Delaware?
Well,
why Delaware?
There's no beavers in Delaware.
I don't know if that's even true. But let's say you're from Tennessee. There's probably beavers in Tennessee. You're from somewhere in the deep south. You don't have a lot of beavers like we do in Canada. Up here, like you can't drive for more than 10 minutes without dodging a beaver.
I haven't seen a beaver.
There's beavers everywhere.
I have not seen a beaver in months.
Then you're driving around with your eyes closed because there's beavers everywhere. And beavers like to eat wood. And so when you're like, if I'm a beaver, right? And
whose website was this on? And who wrote this?
And I'm a beaver and there's a lot of deforestation happening. Or I live in Saskatchewan. There's not a lot of trees in the middle of the prairies. Where is my number one source of wood? In people's backyards.
This is not true.
Tell me I'm wrong.
This is not true.
Number one source of accessible wood. They can't eat the studs in your house because it's protected by the envelope of the house. But your deck, if you haven't skirted it in, there's a lot of food there for a beaver. I love for sure there's a significant number of people not from Canada right now that are buying into everything I'm saying. They're like, yeah, beavers are a huge problem up in Canada. I heard it on the podcast.
Don't believe him.
There is no... Let me tell you this. I'm from Canada. I have never seen a beaver in the wild, I don't think.
I've seen two and I shot
maybe not.
I shot both of them.
I just like, they don't, I get that we're known for our beavers, but like, I don't see them very often. And I'm in a place where there's supposed to be a lot of beavers.
Yeah, they're not rampant. That's for sure.
I've seen some in a zoo. I've seen some at a museum. Anyways, on Fortress's website, it says one of the reasons to use steel framing is that wood is a food source.
It's a food source, right? And so it was like mold.
Their actual wording.
Mold, termites, and beavers could possibly ruin your deck. And it was like, here's what I can promise you. Whoever wrote that from Fortress did not call anyone in Canada.
The Canadian rep and be like, is this a real issue? Do beavers eat your decks up there?
They didn't phone anyone. They could have phoned Joe, who worked at BMO, and been like, Bank of Montreal, and been like, hey, we heard that beavers really like eating decks. Is this true? And Joe would have been like, I have never seen a beaver in the wild in my life.
And certainly not in the city where the deck is. Anyways, I just like how that sounds.
Yeah, my neighbor Fred.
I think
that happened to Fred, man. His deck got chewed up, man. It was unbelievable.
Fred told me, said the most dangerous thing to his deck was a big beaver.
So termites are a true thing. That's a true story.
Termites are a real thing.
I'll buy that. Mold, I'd buy that.
Dry rot,
all
sorts of rot, real things. Beavers, Fortress, there's a lot of reasons to sell steel framing. I don't know that beavers is one of them. And maybe we're wrong. If anybody's had a beaver problem with their deck,
no, that's not true.
Let us know.
We would have heard that.
That'd be good.
I've had some bad beavers around my deck, but it's never ruined it. That's what I can tell you.
I'll tell you one thing for sure.
I'll tell you what.
If you have steel framing, it's for sure not a problem.
Right. Okay.
So not even theoretical.
It's not even possible.
Unless you have a really hungry beaver.
You have a composite. Nope. Oh yeah.
Not even?
They break their teeth on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
okay. So
you have composite decking and you have steel framing. Yeah. The last 50 years and the beaver pieces out. Like rolls in and was like, I'm off to Fred's. He's going to
eat your neighbor's deck.
That's right. And you've saved yourself.
That's good. Another thing that's good about steel framing, or aluminum in this case, is that it's aesthetically pleasing. It looks good. We spend a lot of money trying to hide up the wood, right? The most expensive board per linear foot you're going to put on your deck is your fascia board, typically.
Right. Yep.
And so we build these decks and we're like, there's
hide
some
it.
wood showing. I want to hide the wood. Put some fascia on. It's only $8 to $12 a linear foot. Let's hide the wood.
My
You
argument
build some stairs and you want to hide all the wood in the stairs because it's just not very nice looking. And
My
like, you
argument
wanna
would be
climb
that
posts.
Fortress has addressed this better than Trex, probably. Right? Because Fortress they powder coated their steel. It's black. So it looks sharp.
Yeah,
man.
the black powder coating looks great. I don't think you even have to put fascia on. It just looks good. Unless there's nothing else black in your house. But if there is stuff that's black, it already looks good. But just compared to wood, both options look much better.
Way better.
Than wood that's got some inconsistent coloring to it, or it's dried out and it looks whatever, it's cracked and whatever. This stuff just looks good all the time.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's another side benefit of going with that way. We mentioned the consistency of it, the fact that it's super flat. So you don't have to spend the time doing the things to try to get it flat, and you can install it and leave and come back 2 months later and it's still flat. You can come back 2 years later, it's still flat. You can come back 20 years later, it's still flat.
Yeah, you could frame it in the fall, deck it in the spring, and you wouldn't have to show up with your planer.
Right. And there's no callbacks from somebody saying like, you built my deck last whatever, and now here we are 3 months later and it's already
Super
wavy
wavy.
and it's like stuff doesn't look right and the fascia's popped because the board twisted and nope, none of that.
So now maybe you can offer a longer warranty.
Sure you can.
Your labor warranty.
Sure you can.
Guys are offering up a 1-year labor warranty. Now you can do 5.
No rotting, no warping, no splitting.
Oh man.
So some of the reasons that your miters open up, we talk about this all the time. Everybody talks about miters opening up all the time with composite decking or with PVC decking. And some of that is related to expansion and contraction. A lot of it's related to expansion and contraction, but some of it's also related to the wood underneath drying and pulling away.
Absolutely. Your rim joists move. They do.
Things dry.
Anyways.
They get smaller when they dry out.
Yep.
And so that movement in the lumber too can also cause some of your craftsmanship to pull apart. And so
Put in your
there's none of
best
that
effort.
with this. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The material you're working with let you down.
Screwing into end grain. This isn't even on the list. But if you ever screwed like a Cortex plug into end grain, at the end of a rim or into your stair stringers most commonly, and you find that it spins out, it won't grab, whatever. I'm guessing in steel, there's no chance for soft spots.
Just works. Yep. No soft
It doesn't matter
spots.
where you're screwing it. It's just steel into steel. It's just going to work.
Yep.
You're not going to spin and cam out any screws. So that's good.
Yep.
Yeah. Excuse me. There's a lot of reasons to go with steel framing.
Use that list.
There's another list here.
That list is
What
better.
else do we have here? Resistant to living threats. That's what. That's what Fortress called
To
it.
living
Resistance
threats.
to living threats,
Yep.
like beavers. A lot of the potential pushback too on the stuff is the fasteners. People are like, "Oh yeah, it's great. There's steel, but where am I going to get the steel fasteners?" Well, Trex makes their clip with the steel self-tapping screw.
For the comment on pushback, this isn't homeowners because they don't give two shits. They're like, I just want my deck boards on. This is a pushback from a contractor.
Yeah.
So dear contractor, they exist and there's lots of them.
They might be a little bit tougher to find.
Not lots of them, but there's two for sure.
But Camo is coming out with their clip, their X clip in a self-tapper.
Yeah,
So now the system you already love.
Self-drilling, maybe.
You already love those systems.
Call it whatever you want.
Now you can still walk around with your gun and plunge these down into metal framing. So problem solved.
We were talking to Mike
And if you
about this.
can't get them, just phone us. We'll get them for you.
Just yesterday.
Because you won't be able to find them very easy.
The day before, we were talking to Mike about this on deck. Mike from Decked Out, and so he's a camo fastener convert this year, and we were talking about steel framing stuff with him because not by accident we're talking about this. This is top of mind for us, and so we were talking to our contractor about it and was like, listen, this is something you need to push. You need to talk about this. You need to show people this product.
Well, just be aware of it.
Yeah.
Up to you whether you want to push it or whatever, but know that it's an option, and you know what? The distribution problem is no longer.
Correct.
If you want to sell this, you can.
Yep.
We can get it for you. No problem.
No problem. And so that fastener with camo fasteners, they've made it a lot easier to just like clip all the boards together, set the drill on top.
They've removed one of the changes, right? At least one of the, it's like,
challenges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the changes from installing wood versus steel.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things change for you. New tools, new ways to install it.
Yep.
But as far as the clips attaching to the boards, well, now that's, at least that's consistent.
Yep.
It might take a little bit longer for that screw to start, but you're still going to put it down with the same tools and the same process.
Yep.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I would say that
So we got good fasteners.
a lot of reasons, but the final one we're talking about is the sustainability of steel. So it's a good news message because wood, you're Like you're harvesting forest for it. Not a great message.
So they call it a renewable resource, and it
is.
And it truly is, right? Because you can
only if you're renewing it at the same rate that you're deforesting it.
And I think that they've sort of sorted this out. Like the scientists have kind of figured this out. You're going to cut down a certain amount of trees and you're going to replant them. And it's like, they're only taking as many as they're putting back in. And so they're working on this. It's not like
it's just the turnover rate though now, because the reason we're talking about lumber being soft and not lasting as long in the first place is because it's not as old. You're harvesting things younger because we've taken all the old stuff.
Right.
So now you're just like, you're replacing what you're taking, but they're only waiting 10 years, not 40 years.
That's right. And so the density of the wood is down, right? Because that's like a tree grows to the height it grows and then it gets more dense.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm 100 feet tall and now I'm like, now I'm
going to grow outwards like we do.
Like now I'm more robust, right? Yeah. And so we wait till they get 100 feet tall and then we cut them down.
Yeah.
So they are renewable, but the quality of that renewable resource is not amazing.
Yeah. Steel, on the other hand, is like infinitely recyclable and doesn't lose its strength.
I don't know.
Like
maybe you can only recycle it 3 times.
When this stuff,
whatever.
Like let's say the deck, for whatever reason, in 25, 30 years needs to come down for some reason, the wood goes in the garbage. It goes in the landfill. Like it's ground up. It's garbage. It's nothing. It's rotted away. It's whatever. The next deck has to take more trees.
It does then decompose and turn into like worm food, but whatever. It's like, it's gone. You don't, it doesn't become another deck. Right?
Exactly. Whereas the steel could be recycled. First of all, it could be reused for another deck.
It might have already been reused. It might have been a car once.
But it could be taken out and molten down and used for something else again.
Might have been an I-beam.
Could have been.
Might have been a skyscraper. And then is now your deck.
Could be a Cybertruck.
Could have been a Cybertruck.
Down the road.
Anyways.
Your deck might be a recycled Cybertruck.
Yep.
Anyway, I guess that's kind of the main touching points. There's obviously there's pros and cons to both. Let's be honest. If we were to make a list, there is still some pros to wood. It's a little bit easier to work with. You're more familiar with it. It costs a little bit less. It's easier to put screws into, so on and so forth. There are some reasons to like
comfort,
to prefer. It's just what you know.
Yep.
But the list of pros for steel framing is a lot longer. If you can get past the first couple hurdles of price being a bit more and, the difference in insulation, the unfamiliarity with installing it, the process, if you can get past those two things, it really becomes a weighted win in favor of steel.
My gut feel on this is the guys that really hit it out of the park on installing steel framing are the ones that do like 1 or 2 and they become confident in installing it. Because as soon as you believe that you can put this in, then it's like, then you just start like convincing your customer, no, listen, I can put this in and it's going to be way better for you. What's happening right now is people are talking about this and they're like, they're not sold.
Or they're not talking about it.
Well, they're not sold that they can put it in.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
Or they can get it or whatever. Like it's just not there.
Yeah. And so
a lot of reasons.
they personally don't believe that they can put it in for whatever reason. They don't have the tools. They don't have the availability. They don't have the like support from their vendors, whatever it is, whatever the reason is, they don't believe they can install that. And as soon as they figure out that they can, then it's going to go off like gangbusters.
Yeah.
Right. And so
the market right now is probably a higher end market, right? Undoubtedly, it's like this is much easier to sell on a project that's $80,000 to $100,000 than it is if it's 8 to 10.
That's where it starts though.
So
you're not putting this on track housing.
No, some jobs are based solely on price. This obviously isn't for those.
No.
But if you're doing a job that includes a $70,000, $80,000 deck in a backyard that's getting re-landscaped and the customer's putting $150,000 into their backyard, $200,000, and the framing means it's only $3,000 or $4,000 more, like that's a no-brainer.
You would be foolish to not talk about it.
Yeah.
Whether they take it or don't take it.
Yeah.
You would be foolish to not mention it.
The one thing we didn't talk about, we talked about the aesthetics of it. It just looks nicer than wood.
Well, we did kind of.
We did talk about that. What we didn't talk about is the spans.
Oh yeah.
So it's stronger.
Right.
So in Fortress's case, and I'd have to look up Trex, but undoubtedly it's likely similar. A 2x6 size of steel joist can span 16 feet.
Right. So open views.
And your beam. So first of all, you don't have to use anything bigger than a 2x6. So it's lighter to work with.
Yep.
It doesn't take up as much room. So if you got a window below or something, like it doesn't block that. But the beams also can span further between posts. So if you're doing a walkout deck or you have a view or something you're trying to preserve and your deck's 60 feet long or something like that. And if you were going to use wood posts and a wood beam, you need 5 or 6 posts in there.
Yep.
And the steel, you might only need 3, maybe 4.
3 or 4. So
you can open up your views, have less obstructions.
Yep.
And it's a 4x4 post. Like there's enough steel out of a strength out of a 4x4 post. So that's a huge thing we kind of skipped. I don't know how we missed that. I wrote it here, even spans, and didn't talk about it, but that's a gigantic plus as well.
Huge. Lots of people talk about that with walkouts.
Yeah.
Or anything on a deck or an acreage or, not a deck, a lake.
Yeah.
On a lake or an acreage or whatever. If you have a view, you want to see it. That's what you paid the $250,000 for.
Yeah.
That's why you bought that lot.
And that comes up a lot on walkout decks. People are like, I don't want a bunch of posts in the back. And it's like, well, unfortunately, the city's only going to approve, a 13.5 foot span on this lumber. That's as much as I can do. But the steel, you can possibly remove a post or two out of every job and open that up a bit more. So that's a big thing too. Yeah. So that's really good.
That's it.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. That's all there is to it. So have a look at it. The big 2 in the game, like we said, Trex Elevations, Fortress Evolutions.
Yep.
Look them up. Do your own research. Go find them at a trade show. Check it out. They've been at Trex has had this stuff at the trade shows. You've probably seen it for a number of years. Fortress, like I said, has been out for 2 or 3 years at the trade shows. You've probably seen it by now too if you've been there. But have a look because the problems with it are starting to erode. The price is coming down. The distribution is getting better. The familiarity is getting a little bit better. Your customers, if they're doing their own research, maybe actually coming across this stuff now, which they wouldn't have before. There. Fasteners are becoming a little bit more available. So it's going to start making its way into everybody's market. So
beavers have found their own wood source.
Beaver. That's the biggest thing, right? They've decided that the treated stuff doesn't taste as good, but in spite of that, it's still an option. Anyway, that's it. That's all. Watch the Super Bowl tomorrow. If you're listening to us after tomorrow, then hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. But check out Steel Framing if you have any questions about this. If you want to follow up with us with any questions, certainly feel free to give us a shout on Instagram.
Amazing. I love these tracks.
Right?
So good.
At The Ultimate Deck Shop. Always willing to listen. Shoot us some ideas. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
You've been listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Brought to you by the Ultimate Deck Shop. Shop with us at www.ultimatedeckshop.com or check us out at all the social networks we can keep up with. Hit us up for any collaboration or sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.